What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Art of Smart TV. And one of the things that can happen is you can, maybe not do so well in your end of year 11 exams and maybe even at the start of year 12 in your first assessment and then really feel like you've screwed your entire HSC. That subject is a write-off. And in today's episode, I'm going to be sitting down and chatting with Henry who, in his end of year 11 exams for chemistry scored 28%. Now, for most students, that's probably, an indication of maybe this should be dropped. But Henry didn't. He kept at it and kept chemistry throughout year 12. And by the end of the journey, had managed to turn that around, scoring overall, an 85% in his HSC exams itself and an overall mark of 83%. So a solid band 5. Now, this represented from his end of year 11 result a 57% mark turnaround, which is absolutely remarkable. And so what we're going to find out today is really what were the steps that Henry took to turn something around from a 28% in an end of year 11 exam in chemistry to score a band 5. Now, it should be noted that Henry did all of this while also training for over 36 hours a week for rowing. So Henry had a lot of other commitments, but managed to still turn things around for chemistry. So welcome, Henry. Now, what happened for that end of year 11 exam?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't really clicked into gear yet. I think through year 11, I was working out how to really study and the schedule I needed to take to get the ball rolling academically. But I think it was those tough marks that yes, it was disappointing, but it also rattled me into saying, okay, like something needs to change here. And I think there was a big change in my schedule. And also, I think just having the maturity to look at the content and be like, okay, I didn't understand that. I need help. I need to go and find help from somewhere, and I need to put in the hours to get better at that.
I guess first of all, you didn't decide to drop the subject, right? Was there a reason for that?
Sadly, there was a subject that was worse than chemistry. Oh, no. So I think my physics mark was worse than chem. So I think it was pretty clear physics isn't working out. Let's drop that and move forward with chem. I was stuck with it, and I think it was a bit of a tough position, being like, I want to achieve this good mark, but at the moment I'm stuck with a 28%, and I think it's a position where you have to really knuckle down and just do the hard yards and have the maturity to go, no, I didn't understand that content. I have to go back. I have to relearn that because it's built knowledge, and a lot of the stuff in the course comes back up in year 12, and it's expected that you know the year 11 course.
So it's sort of important then. You can't just write year 11 off, like press reset and be like, year 11's doesn't matter. Like it actually matters for the course, particularly with the skills, I believe, for 100%. Chemistry.
And I think it's a lot in terms of, it's easy to say, okay, that didn't go well, but next year I'll just try hard, or, like I'll put this goal and I'll smash it. But if you don't go back and if you don't learn it, then it will come back to bite you, like no matter what. So I think it does take the person personally looking at themselves and go, okay, no, I didn't understand that. I need to go back. I need to refocus. I need to get help for that and relearn that.
So there's two things that you did that you've highlighted, and I want to unpack them a little bit. The first was you said you reorganized your schedule.
Yeah.
What did that look like? Like, what changes did you make to support that?
I think up until the start of year 12, I didn't really understand what I could fit in a day. I think throughout year 12, I really started to realize within myself, okay, I can actually do this much in a day if I focus and get it all done. I can do this. And also then while I was doing it, really focusing intensely in the moment and really working on, if it's a specific problem, I'm looking at that problem and I'm really diving into it as much as I can, rather than just giving up and being like, oh, I can't do this, I need help, blah, 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 blah. And I think giving it a good crack before I went and looked for help was also another side to it.
And then the second thing that you said was you started going back. You had that realization of like, if I walk into year 12 with a 28% for chem, year 12 is going to be tough.
Yeah.
So what did that process, because I think even if it's 28, I think a lot of students end year 11 with marks for not all subjects, but for some subjects that aren't crash hot. Yeah. And then get into year 12 and really struggle with that tension of how do I go back and learn what I don't know, my gaps, while still simultaneously moving forward because the content keeps coming.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop. So how did you go back? What was the process you took in going back to plug the gaps, essentially?
Well, first of all, I came to Art of Smart. I think end of year 11 was like the first kind of time when I came to Art of Smart, and Adrian, chem tutor here, helped me like so much. And I think I said to him, I said, Adrian, my mark is terrible, but I'm willing to put in the effort to relearn that if throughout the whole of this year, if like you're with me. And he just like committed 100% of the way and taught me everything. Even there was parts in year 12 when I was like, look mate, like I just don't understand this one thing. And it was from like term 2 of year 11, but it's painful no doubt to go back, but you got to do those things to learn it, because you have to learn it at the end of the day. And as painful as it is, you can sweep it to the side and be like, oh no, like I know that.
Or feel just uncomfortable asking about it, right?
Exactly. Like I think it is very uncomfortable to be like, look, here's this thing from year 11 that I had no idea, and you're in the middle of year 12. But though having those painful moments where you have to go back and relearn them is 100% worth it in the end, because if it comes up in the HSC exam and you smash it, like I'm sure it did, then I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
So being comfortable to just say, I don't get this. And that, that means, I guess, putting ego aside, doesn't it, really?
100%.
Just to be like, well, my goal here is to get better.
Yeah.
And I just need to admit that I don't get this, even if I look a little stupid right now. So then what was the approach that you took with Adrian to go back? Like, because it's great to get support. And I think certainly there are times where you just need to double down and go, I can't do this on my own. Like I need to get a support network around me, whether or not that's tutors, family, teachers, whoever. What did that look like though, in terms of then working with Adrian to go back to try to sort of plug those holes?
Well, there were two things. So I joined, there was a Tuesday class where we kind of went through the content in real time, what we were going through in year 12. And then one other time throughout the week, I'd have a one-on-one with him where basically it was just redoing year 11 in a sense. And we'd go back and we'd be like, okay, we're going to learn this. And then the next week we'd do this, and we filled gaps slowly. And I think during the moment in year 11, you're not getting tested on stuff, in year 12, in the moment you're not getting tested from stuff from year 11. Other than there's a few things that are built knowledge, until you get into like your mid-sem exam and then your final HSC exam when year 11 stuff is involved. So it was a comforting knowing that I had some time to kind of get it. But at the same time, I think definitely going back through with him was really helpful, just to be, also having a different approach and a different explanation of it really helped. And I think sometimes it would be 2-3 weeks and we'd still be working on this one thing that I just couldn't get my head around, and I'd be doing the hours, no doubt, but and it eventually came. It was really rewarding when it did, but I think it definitely had to have those painful conversations to say, no, like I don't get this, I'm really sorry, it's not working out for me.
What appears to be quite important is, yes, you knew that you had a bit of a buffer of time to catch up, but that's also because you started being very proactive about it. Like as soon as you got that result, you were like, oh, I need to fix this. So I think what's great is that you didn't wait to go, oh, I'll see how I go, I'll just jump into year 12, maybe I'll be able to get through it. Because then obviously the time that you have to fix those year 11 issues starts to diminish quite a lot. What work were you then doing? Because you mentioned you were doing the work. You said, well, look at it, would work on this thing and I'd be putting the work in. What did putting the work in look like on a week-to-week basis during the terms, right? We'll get to exams in a bit, but particularly during the terms.
Well, for me, it was a lot about doing the notes, highlighting the stuff that I don't understand, going through that with Adrian, either in the class or with our one-on-one tutor, and then doing further problems more than what we were given in class or in our Tuesday class. Doing more than that to understand it. I think very early on I recognised, okay, there's other kids around me that have been doing this a lot longer than me, like trying hard at this a lot longer than me, and are very much better than me at this. So if it means that I got to do 10 more extra problems for a topic or whatever it is, then I got to do 10 or 20 more questions for that topic. That's just how it is for me to get the same level of understanding of them. So I think Sunday was like a big day for me where I do like very much chem and maths based. So I think doing more than what was asked of me was a big thing, because I needed to do that after a poor year 11 result. And also highlighting the things in real time that I didn't understand to go back, because a lot of the time I found in chem things moved quicker than in other classes. And
This is at school.
yeah, at school particularly, the ball rolled a bit quicker than in other classes, and you still need to have the same depth of knowledge as in any other subject. So I think I had to highlight things in my notes and be like, okay, that small bit, that dot point, I'm not with it. Come back and really relearn it and re-understand it.
So the focus was very much mastery then, because I know, and look, I've felt this way for different subjects in my own, sort of learning journey as well. Like you sort of just want to go, I'll do the work, but the work is I'll do just 5 questions and then I'll tick it off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like that was your attitude at all. It was, I'm going to really, what do I need to do to understand this?
Yeah.
And that could have been 2 questions.
Yeah.
But as you said, it could have been the 10 to 20 sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the HSC, ultimately it's about understanding it, not ticking the boxes. There could be a perfect formula where it's like you do 10 questions of this and 20 questions of this, you do these past papers and then you get a 99.95 and it's perfect. But if that was the way, then everybody would get a 99.95. But I think having the maturity to be like, no, I have to do this until I understand it, or I have to get help so that I understand it, is a big part of it. Because me being late to the game in chem, I was very much, okay, I need to put in this effort to really understand this so that I can move forward with other content. And I think that was like 100% the main part of me changing my mark, was knowing it until I understood it, not until I did a certain amount of questions.
And then what did that look like as you got closer to trials and then HSC? Like what prep did you do for chem?
I think 2020 being the odd year, lockdown really helped me, and I got to iron out, I worked with Adrian a lot in that period to iron out all my issues. And then I think that really helped coming into trials. I think I could focus on really just nailing that year 12 content to put in a really good performance for trials. And to be completely honest with you, I hadn't laid down a genuine mark in chemistry until trials came round.
Just to understand that when you say genuine mark, because I know in trials you got, was it 75, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep, so what were the assessments looking like prior to that during the year?
I think relative to everybody else, I was definitely in the bottom third. Yep. I think at the start of the year, I was ranked 62nd of 67 or something like that. And then I think throughout the year I was slowly improving, but there wasn't major changes coming. And I think the trial was something that I really focused on because it was a large chunk of my internal mark. And it was something that I knew if I applied myself properly to, I could get it together for.
And so then what was that prep like then, in terms of, you said you really applied it, what were you doing then?
I was doing a lot of trial papers and intensely going through those trial papers. Even if it's a small multiple choice question that I thought, I might know it, or even if it's something small where you say, oh, that was a silly error, going back over the content and redoing it and relearning it was what ultimately got me over the line in my marks, because it was the accumulation of small little things. So even if you look at it and you go, oh, that's just 1 mark, that's a silly error, redoing the question can mean the biggest difference down the road. And I think there's definitely questions that came up in the HSC and I'm looking at it laughing, because I'm like, I've made mistakes on this type of question so many times, but I've done it 10 times and I've redone it so that now I'm good for it now and I'm ready.
So then you were doing lots of papers and questions. Obviously there's not many papers floating around because it was a relatively new syllabus, but it was, I imagine, then taking questions from old papers and
100%.
Textbooks and other states where relevant, then doing them. When you were making mistakes, were you logging those mistakes anywhere?
Yeah.
So the way I would do it is, Adrian actually taught me this is really valuable. I'd highlight it, I would redo it. I had this book, so I had 4 books, 1 for each module, and for every question that I'd got wrong, I'd redo it on that page. And then if I got it wrong again, I'd bring it to Adrian. I'd be like, this question, I'm really stuffing up on this.
So you'd have another crack at it before you got help.
Yeah.
Critically,
100%.
yeah.
Normally the way I did it is I'd mark the paper, I'd look at the answers, and 1 to 2 days later I'd come back and redo it. I think that way I didn't 100% remember the answer and the working out and how to do it. And it also gave me that time to clear my head. I think after you get a few questions wrong, or if you do a trial paper and it doesn't go your way, it can be really easy to be flustered and go and re-iron in mistakes and embed mistakes and get yourself in a rut where you just got a negative mindset towards that subject. So I think giving it a break, if it meant doing something else that I liked more, or doing something else that I was a bit better at, getting myself back at feeling a bit better before I went back to chemistry and kind of had to painfully redo those errors.
So we've got almost like this logging of mistakes, redoing them. having a go at it yourself. So not just, and I think that's really critical, because I think it's quite easy if you know you've got the support to then lean on it too heavily at the same time. And then you're not building the muscles yourself on, like, because I know the stuff that's hard that we struggle to solve tends to be the stuff we remember for longer. Right? As you said, there were those questions where you're like, I stuffed this one up a lot of times. And so it's sort of creating the space in your prep to have that struggle to help build that memory and understanding, but also knowing that too much of that could then, impact your confidence. And so there was a fine line in it, which is great. So then you get through trials, and I think the sort of journey that you had really shows the power that trials and HSC can have. If you can do well in them, in changing your overall mark, right? Because you got a 75 and then an 86 in your HSC exam and 83 overall. But that's despite, as you said, ranking in the bottom third and not doing particularly well in your earlier assessments.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it was definitely momentum and telling myself, no, I can do this. This is possible. So throughout the year, I think I slowly got the ball rolling in terms of, I think it's very easy to get bogged down in a mark and go, okay, I didn't do well in this, and this is a write-off, and I'm this and I'm that, and I'm not going to do well. But I think if you consistently go back over, tell yourself, no, it's just one question, you can learn how to do it, you can learn this content, and then you go back over it, it's 10 times more rewarding at the end when it comes through and you really get yourself over the line. No doubt it's frustrating not to do well, and especially when you put in effort, but to have that consistent application and then eventually to get there, it was really rewarding. And I think coming in after trials was definitely the best time of the year, because it was just, okay, we're ironing these small things out and I've just got confidence in what I can do. And I think that's a really, really happy place to be, and it's a really fun place to be, especially when you've come from a place where you go through the test and you can't even answer more than 50% of it, I think. That's an awesome, it's a really rewarding place to be.
And then final question, one of the things that you sort of highlighted was doing the small things consistently made the difference. If, there was sort of 2 small things that you would recommend that students do that would accumulate and on your own experience were instrumental, what would those 2 small things be that they could do?
I would say have the maturity to stand back and look at your marks and go, no, this is just a small piece of the pie. And if I put in the effort, I can turn this around. I think it's very easy to throw away a bad score with an excuse. So you can say, I didn't study hard enough, I could just put in more effort, or, I was just switched off in a few of those lessons, or, this or that. And it's really easy to throw away a bad mark with an excuse. But I think having the maturity to go, no, that wasn't what I wanted it to be because I didn't understand it. And to say to yourself, I need to go back and relearn that is a really big step to take. And I think that's the biggest step to take towards actually doing it. Because I think once you have that within yourself, no, I didn't do well in this, but I can do it and I'm going to go back and redo it. I think once that's within yourself, and once you've told yourself that and you really firmly believe that within yourself, then everything else kind of just folds out.